Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Brittney Chanel, and today we are back on my Back to Basics 101 series on my channel, and we are talking all about foundation and a little bit about concealer, but mostly foundation. I do have notes because I am very forgetful, and I have a feeling this is going to be a lengthy video, so you might want to just, you know, pull up a chair, get a snack, smoke some weed, whatever you like to do, have some wine, have some whiskey, whatever you're into. You might want to do that. Okay, so I want to talk about how to pick out your perfect foundation, what to look for when you go to the department store, when you go to the drugstore. It can all be like incredibly intimidating for anyone. Even when I go into stores and I'm trying to find a foundation, it's like 1,000 in there. What is the difference? Why do I need this one and not this one? So that's what this part of the series is going to be all about. How to pick your perfect foundation. Okay, so what are the benefits of foundation? Why do we like it? Basically, it evens your complexion and it gives you a flawless finish, whatever that means to you. Okay, so everyone has a different definition of what is a flawless finish to them, and some people will need more, some people will need less, and I shouldn't even say need, I should say want, because it's all a preference. You don't have to go any way with this. And I also want to disclaim that this is just what has worked best for me over the years. Matching foundation for clients, matching foundation for myself. This is just what has ended up working the best for me. So if you find another way that works for you, maybe you know, just like close your eyes and you just pick a foundation and that's just always the best match for you. I wish you the best, man. You know, go for it. But these are just some things that have worked for me, and I just want to share them with you. So let's talk about primer really quickly. So primer basically is meant to keep your makeup from settling into any fine lines, wrinkles, pores, any kind of texture, and we all have it. Now, it also, as a result of that, is going to help your makeup stay on really smoothly and last a lot longer. So it's pretty much like a force field, if you can think about it like that. Like, it's pretty much like a force field. It keeps, like, here's your skin, and maybe you have little divots in your skin, you have like pores and craters in your skin or just whatever, and the primer is just going to create an even layer, and then what's going to happen is your foundation is just going to stay on that layer where your primer is. It's not going to go deep into the pores and the wrinkles and fine lines and what have you. So there is that. Primer is not necessary. Primer is going to work for different people differently. It's going to work differently based on your skin type, your skincare routine, the foundation that you're using with your primer. All of that plays a role in the longevity of your foundation. So I have some foundations that work great without a primer at all. I have some foundations that work great with a certain kind of primer and terrible with another kind. But my two favorite primers, I have a drugstore option here. This is the Rimmel Stay Matte. I tend to like primers that aren't very silicone-y or dimethicone-y. That's basically when you try a primer and it feels really slick and greasy. I don't like that. So I prefer primers like these. It feels almost like a lotion. It does have a little bit of slip to it, but it's not heavy. It's not something that just, I feel, weighs my skin down. So this is my drugstore option. And then my higher end option is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Instant Retouch Primer. This is my favorite primer in the world. I am now on like my 4th bottle of this, which is a big deal to me because I typically switch things. If I don't love it, I probably won't repurchase it and I'll just find something else. But I really love the way this primer feels. It feels like a lotion. It's really calming on my skin, and my makeup lasts really, really well with this. I wish Fenty would come out with a setting spray. I just realized, I was like, they don't have a setting spray. That would be dope. But yeah, that's my favorite primer. And like I said, you don't have to wear primer. It all depends on your skincare routine. It depends on your skin. All those things are going to have a hand in your foundation. All right. Coverage is how much of the product is going to cover your skin. Okay, kind of self-explanatory, but not really. Finish is going to be more so the way the product looks on your skin. So the easiest way that I tell people to think about coverage is to think about leggings versus stockings. Okay, so a sheer coverage is going to be more like stockings. Your skin is going to peek through. You're going to see some of your skin through the foundation. So like if you have hyperpigmentation or you have freckles or any kind of, I don't want to use the word discoloration because freckles aren't like a discoloration, but anything that is atypical of the rest of your skin tone, then that would be a sheer coverage if that foundation can show those things. Okay, like stockings. A full coverage foundation is what I have on right now. We'll talk about what I'm wearing right now in a second. But a full coverage foundation, you see there's no trace of my skin. You cannot see any of my actual skin through the foundation. And that would be more like leggings. You can't see, or you shouldn't be able to see your skin through your leggings, right? So that's basically an easy way for you to remember or understand what the difference is between a finish and coverage. They're two different things, and they're two different things to consider when you're looking for a foundation. Okay, so there's also buildable coverage, which is kind of in between full coverage and a sheer coverage. And it's usually like a medium coverage foundation that you can build up to a full coverage. Those are great for people who don't really see the need to have 100,000 foundations in their collection. And, you know, if you want to wear it as a medium coverage to work, and then you're like going to the bar or something after work and you just want to touch up, you can always add a little bit more of your foundation and it gives you a nice finish. Sorry, there's a bag under me. It's like annoying me. And I would also take the time to say that I highly recommend against taking a sheer coverage foundation and trying to build that up. Sheer coverage foundations are not meant to be built up, okay? Unless it says it's a buildable coverage, I would refrain, because what ends up happening is it looks really, really cakey. It ends up being like a pasty, cakey mess on your face. So if you want a versatile foundation and maybe you can't find a buildable foundation that you like, I would recommend getting a full coverage foundation, and you can always sheer that out. You can always sheer out a full coverage foundation with moisturizer or something like that, like a serum. You can lighten it up and make that more sheer, but it's easier to do that than try to take a sheer coverage foundation and build it to a full coverage one. Okay, so my favorite full coverage foundation, I would have to say I have two, and they're both missing caps because it wouldn't be me without that. So I do love the NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation. We'll talk more about the coverage on this, or the finish on this, but it is a full coverage foundation. And then I like the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Foundation. Oh, here's the top, yay. I'm just a big fan of this foundation, which is surprising to me because I don't like matte foundations, and we'll talk about that in a second too. But I really like the way this looks on me, and it's a great match for my skin. So I always just go with what matches really, really well, because I feel like sometimes I have a hard time not looking washed out. So anywho, those are my favorites. Oh, and my favorite sheer foundation, oh shit, I just dropped my whole little thing. My favorite sheer foundation I don't wear this a ton because I don't really like sheer foundation, but I do like this one by The Ordinary. It is their serum foundation, and it is very, very lightweight. It's very liquidy, this one, and it's nice for if you want to let your skin breathe. I'm just used to full coverage. I like to just have it all on, but this is a great option for a sheer foundation. Okay, so let's talk about finish. Okay, we've already talked about coverage and what the difference is between coverage and finish. Let's talk about what finish we have, like what options we have. You have a dewy finish, which is more hydrating. It looks more like skin. You have a satin finish, which is between a dewy finish and matte. And you have a matte finish. It's flat. It's no oils, no moisture, nothing. It's just a flat finish. So someone with dry skin may find that they like a dewy finish. Someone with oily skin, a lot of people with oily skin tend to like matte foundations. I don't know anymore what my skin type is. I think I'm more normal now. I used to be oily, but even then I always liked a dewy or satin finish. It's just my preference. I just like the way they look. I think they look very pretty. I'm not young, so I need something that's gonna look a little bit more skin-like, and you know, something that's gonna look like I just got off vacation in Jamaica or something like that is what I prefer. A matte finish is a very flat, kind of like what I have on now, because this is the Huda foundation and this is a matte finish, and so there is no kind of oil or moisture, hydration, nothing like that peeking through. The only thing you can see that's shiny on my face is my highlight, and that's pretty much what a matte finish is going to do for you. Of course, a satin finish is in the middle. Okay, so let's talk about matching foundations. This is always the most difficult part for a lot of people, myself included, always trying to figure out what's the best way to match your foundation. And there are a lot of ways to do it, and I will say it's a lot of trial and error. I personally will say that my best advice and my best option would be to match to the color on your body that there is the most of, if that makes sense. And for most people, I'm gonna zoom out. Okay, so I was trying to zoom out so that I can show you how to match, or how I match my foundation, and then like my whole setup fell apart and I'm trying not to be mad. And so yeah, I'm just gonna stay like this so that everything does not collapse at one time again. Alright, so the easiest way to match foundation, in my opinion, is to match to your chest. Okay? And the reason I say that is because, alright, for me personally, my face is lighter than the rest of my body, but my neck is darker than the rest of my body. If I match to my face, then I'm going to look casket sharp. Okay? I'm going to look like I'm wearing a mask. If I match to my neck, it's going to be way too dark. So I like to match to the center of my chest right here. Okay? So when I go to the store or Sephora or whatever, when I try foundations, I just take it and I just put it at the center. Move my necklace a little bit. I put it at the center of my neck. I hope you can see that. I'm going to put it up a little bit so you can see. But as you can see, that is a pretty wonderful match. That was the Huda foundation. And as you can see, that's a pretty good match. I'm not going to blend it so you can see the difference between the rest of my skin and this foundation, but that's how I like to match my foundation, to my neck. Alright, there are a lot of things to consider, not just the actual color but also the undertone, and it's also good to know what undertone you are. So the easiest way I think to determine what your undertone is to look on the inside of your wrist. And if there's a vein, it should be a vein like right here. If that vein looks blue, you have a cool undertone. If that vein looks green, you have a warm or olive undertone, okay? That is a great place to start and determine what foundations are going to look the best on you. It's not always easy to look at undertone in a foundation. I totally understand that. But, you know, practice definitely makes perfect. And there's nothing wrong with going to the counter or going wherever and asking for a couple of samples and trying your hand at figuring out which foundations are going to be a good match for you. But you should be able to kind of see undertone. It's just that underlying color underneath the base color that you mainly see. You should be able to see like some redness or, you know, some olive or yellow. There should be something in the tone that looks very close to your skin tone. Unfortunately, everybody is not able to see that right away, and oxidation will definitely help with that. What is oxidation? Once the air hits your foundation, it doesn't always change the color, and it typically goes darker. Once a foundation oxidizes, you'll really be able to see the undertone very, very well. When I worked at Ulta, when I worked at MAC, and pretty much every counter I worked at, when I did a foundation match on a client, I would always, like, if I wasn't sure myself, because I ain't perfect, nobody is, and if I wasn't sure myself, I would tell them, okay, let's wait for it to oxidize. Why don't you do a little more shopping? Why don't you walk around a little bit and come back in like 5 minutes and we'll see what the foundation looks like then. And I did a lot of trial and error. It's, you know, going to try different lighting. It's taking a picture with flash, taking a picture without flash. All of those things are exactly what I go through to find my perfect foundation shade, because it is not as easy as being like, It gets to a point where it is very easy, but for the most part, it can be challenging for anybody to try their hand at finding foundation. So I definitely recommend going to those counters and just being like, hey, can I get a sample of this or this? Asking them what they think, trying on the foundation. You know, practice is perfect, and that's like the main thing here. Once you incorporate what you want and you're saying to yourself, oh, okay, well, you know what? I want dewy finish and I want full coverage, and that is possible. You know, and you know what you want and you know what to look for. It makes it even easier for you to narrow it down to find your perfect foundation shade. So this video, I keep saying videos are a disaster, and they're not. It's just that, like, I'm so nervous, and then like my whole setup fell apart, and I'm trying not to, you know, forget anything. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for the video all about foundation. Oh, I did say I was going to talk a little bit about concealer, just a little bit. So for concealer, it's all going to depend on what you're looking for. I like a bright highlight underneath my eye. So not this kind of highlight where it's like a shimmery powder that's on my face, but it just highlights underneath my eye. I have very, very dark circles, so I just prefer it to look a little bit more brightened. And I use the Born This Way multi-use sculpting concealer. I use the shade Mocha, and I really love this concealer. I think it's probably the best one that I've ever had, and it gives me like a nice brightened look. Now, if you're looking for the same like brightened look that I have, then you want to go maybe 1 to 2 shades lighter than your foundation shade. And you still want to keep those same rules about undertones. So as you can see, this is a very yellow based foundation or concealer. Now if you are just looking for something to just spot conceal, then I would recommend just going with your regular foundation shade and just going from there. So I think that about covers everything. Please let me know if you have any questions for me in the comments. I hope that this made it a little bit easier for you to determine how to figure out your winning perfect foundation, whether it's in the shade or the finish, the coverage. Hopefully that will help you guys out. and I will see you in my next video. Bye, take care.